All right, we're live. Welcome back to another episode of After Hours, the Pledgy Podcast. Today we have Todd, Merriott, and Ben, Allgeyer. Get into it. Got multiple different businesses that you guys own and operate. Let's kick it off. Happy to have you guys.
Excited to have you on.
Next time I'm going to tell you what my last name is actually pronounced like, so you can get that right.
There's a slight hesitation going into that. How do you pronounce it?
Allgeyer.
Allgeyer.
Yeah.
Good.
There we go. Noted.
Well, Ben, you want to kick us off, giving us a little background about yourself, how you got up to this point, how you got introduced to Todd?
Yeah. Classic tale of med school dropout, become real estate investor, business entrepreneur. It's everybody's story, right? But yeah, that was my path for a long time, was go to medical school, become a doctor, and then just live a horribly boring life. And quickly, when I was getting to the end of college, realized that was going to be one, expensive, two, I'd still probably be in residency right now, and making about 45 grand a year. That sounded awful. Plus, all I was going to be able to do was push pills to people. So no, thank you. Read some books, which Todd doesn't do. He just likes me to give him the Cliff Notes version of the books. So if I have a book that I've read and tell Todd, hey, here's a book to read, he goes, just go ahead and send me the Cliff Notes. So we do. So Todd's read a lot of books too, Cliff Notes version. But yeah, I got into real estate and then got hired to replace Todd at his job, which a lot of people don't know that story. But the guy that had Todd employed realized that Todd was making too much money. So let's bring in somebody younger who can work for cheap. And as soon as I got brought in, Todd saw the writing on the wall and said, oh shit, I'm about to get replaced. So the two of us drove around every day in the car looking at houses for like 6 months. The company was going through some changes, and they're like, we're going to implement these non-competes. You're going to have to sign these non-competes and everything's going to be great. In the words of Todd, F no, I'm not doing that. And in my case, I was young at that point. I'm like, sure, this guy seems to know what he's doing. I won't sign it either. But then I signed it and went and spent 4 months in Europe. Todd quit. And then when I got back from Europe, we're like, all right, let's go start a business. So we started a real estate company. And a couple of years ago, we bought a painting company. And then we bought a security company. And we have a coaching company. And I don't know. We do a lot of different things that make Todd tired. My whole job is to put more on Todd to make him more tired so that I can beat him in golf.
That is
and
awesome.
That's why we're here today.
What's the first company? Do we have a name drop for that you guys met at?
Yeah, it's a local company here in Kansas City. It was a real estate operation that's probably now the biggest home buyer in Kansas City.
Wow.
So Todd and I
it was a win-win.
It was.
We left, they got better. We left, we got better.
100%. That's awesome. And Todd, you want to run down your background real quick? We'd love to hear some more about that.
Well, ironically, I was pre-med also. I didn't stick around in that very long, but I ended up getting a degree in biology education. Taught high school for 1 year. I was doing it just really to coach baseball. I played baseball in college, so I loved the idea of coaching and had a great time coaching, but the teaching part was just not for me. I couldn't stand the thought of being on a pay scale and like just having that kind of predetermined, not really being able to impact what you take home based on your effort. So just kind of started painting houses just to pay bills, and actually didn't hate it and felt like I was getting paid pretty well for my time. So kind of got into that pretty heavily and just started telling people I was painting. I mean, it wasn't really true, but they would say, well, come bid my house, or, tell me how much to paint my living room or whatever. And I was just guessing and just got better pretty fast. And it's not, terribly difficult job. So, tried tried to make a business out of that. Started getting work with kind of high-end remodelers and watching and learning, watching the carpenters, watching the tile guy, just kind of going, I can do that. And I'd go try it out at my own house and I'd get better and better at it. Started selling bigger remodels and ended up eventually where we were doing work in like, multi-million-dollar homes. And it's kind of rewarding, but it's also like that level of customer expectations really demanding. And so I was trying to figure out how to simplify and not have to be so like, I felt like an employee all the time, even though I was running my own thing. So ended up getting into commercial tenant finish, sales and management. And so got a pretty broad experience into construction between residential and commercial. A buddy of mine who owned that company that Ben and I were at, he approached me and said, hey, I got to go to New Zealand for 3 months. I need somebody to kind of keep an eye on my flips. And so I did that in addition to my regular job because I was kind of an outside sales guy, so I could drive around and just go stop and check on jobs. And he paid me for it, and it went really well. And then he said, why don't you come do this full time? And didn't quite pull the trigger on that, but then my wife and I decided to move to Florida. And so that same guy partnered with me in Florida. We basically set up the Florida version of what he was doing up here. And so learned a ton about running a business and flipping houses and how to buy. And then we decided that we wanted to come back to Kansas City. So that timing was good for me to go help him and be his right-hand man up here. And then like Ben said, funny thing is, when we came back, I told my wife, I was like, this is a 3-year deal. She's like, what do you mean? I said, I know my friend. I'll figure out how to make the most money doing what I'm doing. And then he will realize that he can do it for cheaper. And like,
I'm cheaper.
Yeah. Literally 2 years and 11 months, Ben shows up.
That's crazy.
I was like, okay, here we go. So, started just kind of trying to figure out, well, what do I do next? I've got this knowledge and experience now, what do we do? And Ben was like, let's do it, So he had the energy and the sort of tech interest, and I had some experience and connections. And so it was kind of a good fit. And yeah, I mean, we've had our challenges, but we're making some strides.
That's awesome to hear. Sounds like medical school is definitely on like both of you guys' plate at one point in your life. What was like the final straw or the tipping point where you're like, okay, enough of this. We're gonna put this goal to the side and go out and become entrepreneurs.
I think I got married young. We got married when we were 20. And I think it was just sort of like that tug to start life. And the idea of another 8 years of school or, 4 years of school on top of my degree plus residency and all that kind of stuff. Like he said, I mean, my brother-in-law went through it and he did it. And I think he's doing great, but like, he has some regrets about that. And I'm like, I think I made the right decision because he's been doing the same thing for 20 years. And for me, that would have just been jail. Like I just don't do well doing the same thing over and over and over and over. So I like the challenge of new things and the dynamics of multiple businesses and that kind of thing. It's actually a fun challenge.
That dude also owns a national park in Missouri with the amount of land that he owns.
Yeah, he's done fine, but he doesn't love his job.
Mine was a little different. My dad sat me down when I was getting ready to graduate, and he goes, all right, buddy, I'm going to write 2 numbers on a piece of paper for you. First number he wrote was 500,000. Second number he wrote was, I think it was 36. And I go, okay, cool, Dad. You know how to write numbers. What does this mean? He goes, well, the first number is going to be how much debt you're in when you graduate. The second number is going to be the age that you are by the time that you actually get to start your life. And I looked at him, I said, oh, didn't realize that. They don't tell you that in undergrad. They just tell you, oh, become a doctor. You'll make a bunch of money. You'll get to help a lot of people. So I had to pay for my entire college, I started a company called Primetime Coolers with my buddy. And what we would do is we took my parents' garage. They had a 3-car garage. We took the 3rd car garage and built these like zip tents that went all the way to the ceiling, and it covered the entire 3rd car garage. And what our business was is we would take coolers that we would go buy on pallets from Walmart. We would sand them down. We would epoxy, like Bondo, the logos, sand those flat, spray them white, and then sell them to sorority girls that were painting coolers for their fraternity dances or whatever they would go to for the fraternity guys. We made an assload of money doing that. It was crazy. We paid for like almost all of our college doing that.
It's crazy.
It's funny when Sam and I actually sat down 3 years ago at this point. One of the first things that we were talking about was getting into some type of real estate. We obviously ended up going the digital marketing route, but I'm curious how you told a little bit about that story of how you got into that position. But Ben, when you're getting out of, pre-med, how did you land on and then fully run with the real estate?
Well, dude, I was a big nerd. I was a huge nerd. So when I was in college, towards the end, I was like reading every book that I could. I lived in the freaking library. My friends made fun of me because all I would do was like, I didn't know how to communicate with people. Like I was socially awkward. It was horrible. So I would just read books. So I happened to pick up a book at Barnes and Noble one day that was Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I read it in college, threw it in a box. And then when I went and took a corporate job in Arizona, I realized quickly that I hated corporate. I was a terrible employee. Like that just wasn't going to work. So I started going through my shit and I'm like, oh, this book that I read a couple years ago, let's pull this thing back out. Went through Rich Dad, Poor Dad again, bought a bunch of coaching programs that were horrific, but got my feet wet in the real estate side, and then ran into Todd's buddy who happened to be in Arizona at a conference across the street from the apartment that I was living in, and said, hey, I play golf with your dad on the weekends. You want to come to this real estate conference? And I didn't realize it at the time, but he was trying to see if he could get me to move back to Kansas City to take over Todd's role in his company.
That's crazy. Where in Arizona did you live? I actually grew up in Arizona.
Scottsdale. So I was at Chaparral and Scottsdale Road, which was a terrible idea for, like a 21-year-old kid who was making decent money at a corporate job and hated his corporate job so much that, it was a little bit of the party idea that was going through my head. I was in that little party phase because I'd been a nerd my entire life. And then when I got to Arizona, I grew about 5 inches and gained 40 pounds in 2 months. So I was like, I had all this newfound confidence, and I'm like, you know what? I'm done being this nerd. Let's go party. So I was walking distance to the entire bar scene, and I was there every freaking night.
Man, that with the combination of being close to Old Town, it's dangerous. Right?
That's where I was. I could walk to Old Town. It was not.
That is awesome. Oh my God.
I actually, I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but there was a guy named Carlton Sheets who had an infomercial for how to buy real estate with no money down. And it was like a 32 CD coaching program that you could buy for like $199. Of course, this was 30 years ago. So that was actually, I don't know, what is that, $600 today? So that was like a big investment at the time. And I bought it and watched it, and then just kind of like worked my way into it just through the remodel side. But I kind of, once I read that, I was like, oh, this is what I want to do. I want to own real estate.
John, so an infomercial, they used to be on TVs. So they would put this whole thing on a TV. It was like a 30-second, maybe a minute. Sometimes they would even go longer.
No, this is a 30-minute. This is a 30-minute commercial.
Was it really? That's
no
what
joke. I'd watch him for 30 minutes. Yeah. And then I bought all of his discs, and it was like, I don't know, 32 hours of CDs.
That's how we had to do things before. They were CDs. We didn't have these MP3 players like we do now.
Yeah.
Thanks for
Actually,
getting up to speed on the infomercial.
You're welcome.
They were DVDs. I had to put them into my computer and watch them on my computer screen.
He had the look on his face like, what is an infomercial? What's a CD? I just wanted to fill you in and make sure you were up to speed.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Oh my goodness. I guess that's kind of a fantastic segue into like the company you own now, Crown City. You guys want to kind of dive into that a little bit? Like, do you have investment verticals that you typically operate in? What does that look like on your end?
Well, we started out with a company called Upsell. That was sort of the big idea that we wanted to run with initially, which was, at the time, this was pre-COVID, so the market was
kind of like it is now.
Kind of like it is now. Like, it was a little bit hard to sell. You had to have a house in really good shape. A lot of people didn't have cash where they could actually do the repairs, so they were kind of in no man's land on the market. And so we were offering to design, finance, and execute a rehab, and then get paid at closing, and guarantee a certain extra amount of money to the seller. Still think that's a pretty good idea, but COVID kind of shifted the market to where everything was selling so fast, people just didn't feel the need to go through the hassle. And so we just kind of pivoted and said, this market's moving so quickly, we need to just start buying and flipping ourselves. And so it was a matter of lining up the financing at that point and making sure that we had the funding to go out and get deals. And then that led us into a partnership with a third guy who was a known entity in our market. He knew, like, he had tons of connections, a good wholesaler, knew how to find deals. And, we kind of made the mistake of partnering with him instead of just hiring him. And, but the first 2 years were great. I think we bought 110 houses in 2 years. And then the market we saw the shift coming to where it was going to start to get a little bit back to normal. And so we had to end that partnership, which was expensive. But we've now kind of weathered the storm on the shift in the market, and that's starting to normalize again. And we're back into buying deals.
That's awesome. Is it mostly like residential multifamily units that you guys buy, or what does that look like? Is it kind of pick and choose?
It's almost all single family. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
We would buy multifamily. It's a different marketing strategy, so we don't focus our marketing that way. And it's a lot longer sales cycle too to get that kind of stuff. So we move pretty quickly. Our lead flow has picked up probably tenfold in the last 3 months.
I think we're getting close to 200, 250 leads a week from motivated people saying, I want to sell my house. But we expanded that to the whole country. So we're not just in Kansas City. We're doing these deals all over. I mean, Arkansas, South Carolina, Oklahoma, Michigan, Iowa, Tennessee, South Carolina. So.
How are you getting, you mentioned 200 to 250 leads per week. How are most of those coming in?
Social media is a powerful tool, gentlemen. It is.
Yes, it is.
We have spent a considerable amount of time and money over the past, Todd, 2.5 years, building a social media presence in the real estate realm. So I think we have 113,000 followers on our platform now on Instagram. And we're able to take that and then go to lead providers or whatever systems we want. If we need data, we can go to these data providers, and all we have to do is pimp their stuff, and they'll give us their software for free. Mm-hmm. Same with the lead providers. They give us the leads for free. We have a back end split with them, so we don't have to pay for any of these leads, and they know that we can close. So instead of selling their leads for, let's say, $100, if they just give the lead to us, let us go close the deal, make $20,000, and we give them a split on it at 30%. Todd, what's the math on that? $6,000? I'm not the math guy. So we can give them $6,000 in return versus them selling a lead for $100 and never seeing any more money from that deal.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. Was that something that you, in the beginning, that you deliberately were planning and seeing that happen? 3 years ago, you're like, all right, let's build out a social media page. And from this page, we're going to get all these deals, these leads, etc.
I think the goal back then was a little bit of ego driven. I saw these other guys in the space building massive, followings online, and I had no idea how to check and see if these people had legitimate followers or if they were all bullshit followers. Most of them were bullshit followers, but I was like, oh, it's so cool. They have such a good following. This is like when Gary Vee's just chirping in my ear. I'm following his shit every single day. Build your following, build your page, build this, build that. So Todd and I were like, we can do that. Let's go figure out how to do this. Cost us a lot of money. Like, we paid a lot of stupid tax. Paid one guy who said, I'm not going to give you any fake followers. We're just going to blow this thing up. We went to 1 million followers in 3 months, and they were all bots. And then this guy disappeared, moved out of the country, and we never heard from him again. Couldn't get our money back. So that was a mistake. And then we started building it organically, had some help from some other companies, and grew it that way. But the idea was, if we can become a player in this space that people recognize and understand, we're actively doing deals, people wouldn't have to go through the experience that I had when I got started and paid for a bunch of bullshit courses that taught me nothing, and I racked up 30 grand in credit card debt. Mm-hmm. So we went and built a community for brand new real estate investors, and that was the goal, was to transition to being able to teach people how to do this and providing value, while also being somebody who actively does this, not like a lot of these gurus you see online that just sell a coaching program and that's all they do.
Yeah, that's fantastic that you do that. I think my next question was honestly going to be like, how do you, if someone's looking to get into real estate, what do they do? Sounds like they can go and join your guys' program, right? Mm-hmm. Mentoring program. And where could people, when they're listening to this, find this said program?
IG, brother. At the Ben Allgeyer.
All right. I love it. Yeah, sounds like there's a lot of trial and error that kind of went into that. Pay the wrong person, you get burnt, you learn a lesson, you get better for it at the end of the day. Is that kind of the, so you have a few different businesses across the span of different industries. Is that your mentality? Is that both of you guys' mentality? Like when you open up into a new industry? So we have real estate, we have a security company that you guys own, painting business as well. Is it just trial by error? And then you learn, you're better for it? Is that helps you kind of expand?
Todd, should I reference my post that I made on Instagram yesterday?
Well, yeah, that there's such a long answer to that question, but yeah.
Yes. Yeah, go ahead, and then I'll tell them what I did yesterday.
I think, we're pretty action oriented, but we do try to think about it. It's just sometimes there's no way to know exactly what you're stepping into, and trusting people to do what they say doesn't always pan out. But even with those situations, like, we pay attention the whole way, and I think Ben does a good job of, like, at any point he's like, hey, we can do this, and even if they're failing and not coming through, we can fix it by doing this. And so it's just been, it takes time. And I think it's like, I'm sure almost all of the gurus out there who have quote unquote made it and are doing, really successful, big numbers, that kind of thing, went through some of the same stuff that we've been going through. And we're starting to see ourselves come out of some of those challenges, and like we feel really good about this quarter, the next quarter. And so it's kind of like, I think we're hitting that point where after all that time and all those trials and all that error and learning, it's kind of coming together, and you can kind of feel it. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but you can just sort of tell that all the numbers are coming together at the right time. And it feels like a year from now, as long as we don't do something really dumb, we're going to look back and go, that was the inflection point where things started to change.
And there's There's a lot of people that, having gone through what we went through, they would have just fucking quit.
Mhm.
It was brutal. Like when I tell you, if we added it all up over over the course of our businesses, we've probably not even probably, we've lost over $1 million. Like just burned over $1 million from, losing a business partner to a lawsuit, to losing a trusted ally in our business that stole one of our businesses, to spending $15,000 on some guy to give us followers, to failed marketing that cost us $79,000. Like all of these things have added up where, any one of those things would have been reason enough for a lot of people to quit. We just have this mindset like, we're not going back to corporate. There's no fucking shot. I don't know if we're supposed to cuss on this podcast, but I can't help it.
Let it rip.
But I made a post yesterday that was like, there's people that come to me all the time. They're like, Ben, I have this great idea for a business, but I don't know what to do. So I made a post yesterday on my story that said, just do shit. Like, I didn't know what I was doing. Todd didn't know what he was doing. We started businesses. We just did shit. And then if that shit didn't work, we did different shit. And then we just kept doing shit until the shit that we were doing worked. And with AI now, you can do a lot more shit a lot faster. So at the end of the day, like, there's people that want to get out of their 9 to 5 or want to start a business or, have started a business and they're struggling. Just keep doing shit. Because what's the alternative? You go back and work for 9 to 5 and work for somebody else? Hell no.
Yeah, I think it's. So you go, Todd.
Well, I was gonna say, people they'll come to me for advice, and they're, I'm thinking about becoming a real estate agent or thinking about doing whatever. And I cannot say it enough. The time to try that is when you have a job, and if you can't do a second job for an extended period of time. I had periods in my life where, I had young kids and stuff had gone wrong, and I was having to make up for lost time on some, had to make some quick money, and I was working 60, 65 hours. I'd work a regular job, and then I would go paint houses on the evenings and weekends for 2 years. So I would hear people talk about, oh man, I had a rough week. I had to work 60 hours. I'm like, here's my middle finger, because I've been doing that. I did it for 2 straight years to make up. I had to pay back like $50,000 that had kind of long story, but so
he got screwed by a business partner.
Yeah, just another deal that went bad. But I tell people, if you have a job, that's the time to go try your idea. Do your job, come home, and then work your other job. And if you can't do that for a month, 2 months, 6 months without getting burnt out, then you have no business being an entrepreneur. Like none. If you can't work 60 hours a week for 6 months to do something that you're passionate about, then you're not going to make it. Just period. Like, he's right. Half of the battle on this is just the decision that you're not going to quit. I mean, we've had our days. Don't get me wrong. There have been days when I'm like, oh my, I just need a job. And then something happens and it's like, okay, we got through that month. That was good. And then
usually Ben goes and pulls a book off his bookshelf, gives Todd the cliff notes of why we shouldn't go get a job, and then it's all better.
Yeah.
I think all of us being entrepreneurs, like going to work for someone else, it sounds like hell, to be honest, where we would rather endure 2.5, 3 years of trekking through the mud to get to the other side before going back to working with someone ever again. And, that's kind of what we originally centered this podcast around, is kind of guiding that mindset, guiding that young entrepreneur to, okay, if you are going to take the leap, this is the mindset that you need. If you guys can give us a little bit of a point of view into like that relentless mindset, like, yeah, you have to you got to get dragged through some of the shit for a while before you do make it to the other end. Just kind of help people get into that mentality of, okay, it's me versus the world right now, and you have to have unbelievable confidence in yourself.
That's exactly what it is. And you have to have this mindset of, I'm okay with getting kicked in the nuts every single day. Like, you got to have some brass balls to be able to be an entrepreneur, because you're going to wake up in the beginning of your business and it's going to feel like you're getting kicked in the nuts every single day. That's just how it goes. Unless you strike lightning in a bottle and somehow have some great idea that makes you millions of dollars, which, Todd, how many people do you know that have done that?
Very few.
I mean, Sam, John, did you guys strike lightning in a bottle and make millions of dollars in your first month of business?
Hell no.
Nope.
No. And that's the thing, is people don't have the time frame built out in their mind. They want the instant gratification. I mean, we see people in our coaching community all the time. They come in, they work the system for 2 weeks, and they're like, well, I don't have a deal. Well, what do you mean you don't have a deal? I went 11 months without a deal.
Yeah.
I blew through so many credit cards trying to figure this business out and didn't have a deal for 11 freaking months. Like, that's, if most people, if you would tell them it's going to take you 11 months to make money if you go and start a business, they're going to go, I don't want to do that. But you look up in 20 years, if you would tell them, 11 months from now, you might get your first paycheck. But 20 years from now, you have something that's worth $10 million. Most people can't see past the fact that it's going to take them 11 months to get there.
Agree. I think that as a society, we get used to the I'm glad that you brought up the instant satisfaction part. Like, we have social media where you can look up anything nowadays. You have ChatGPT or any of the AI platforms you can source the truth in a few seconds. You have DoorDash that can deliver food in 20 minutes. I think everyone's
your package here by 2:00 today.
100%. I think we're just used to instant gratification in all aspects of our lives where, something does get difficult every once in a while, or you have to, get kicked in the nuts for about a year and a half, 2 years when you're starting your business up, where it turns a lot of people away from that. But I think the light at the end of the tunnel, once you do break free of that barrier and keep pushing, keep achieving, keep striving for greatness, is worth all of that, in my opinion.
And I agree. And I think most people's pain tolerance is not nearly high enough. This society is soft. People don't have a high pain tolerance. And if you don't have a high pain tolerance, entrepreneurship is not for you. I mean, good Lord, when we started the cooler company, there were two things that got us through. My dad, I'm going to say it, Todd. My dad's saying to me his entire life, he would tell me this all the time. Anytime I would complain about something, anytime I didn't want to do something, he would look at me and he would say, don't be a bitch. Like, that's my dad's philosophy. When he dies, I'm going to put that on his gravestone. It's going to say, here lies Kevin Allgeyer, father, husband, in quotes, don't be a bitch. Like, that's how I was raised. And it was, painting coolers sucked. I had a mask on, I had goggles on, I had a full paint suit. It's 110 degrees in Kansas City in the summer, and I'm sitting there in this heat box sanding down coolers for 8 hours a day. But the goal was to be able to pay for college. If your why is strong enough, you're going to get through those things. But you have to realize that the struggle is going to be there. You're not going to be in business and not have struggle. And most people think, I'm going to get into business, make $1 million, and it's going to be so easy because some guy online told me that it was.
I love it. I think it's a good transition point to it. When most people are working 60 to 65 hours a week, I don't think their next question is, hey, should we start 2 more businesses? How did you guys go from cranking those hours in real estate to starting a painting company, buying a painting company, and then getting into the security game?
We're stupid, John. We think that we can do more than we can.
Well, I actually had a painting business for a long time. When we wanted to acquire a business, and it just seemed to kind of make sense. Like, let's look at painting first, because it's the one that I knew I wouldn't have to research much to figure out how to run it. We actually partnered up with a guy who helped us find the business, and then we negotiated a really good deal, which actually we should probably share about that. For anybody who's looking to acquire a business, don't just buy the first thing and don't just pay the amount that they're asking. Like, this guy, it was bringing in about $250K net profit a year. And we offered him $300K. He said 350. We said, well, can you sell or finance it? We'll put $30,000 down. You take the rest back over 6 years at 0%. He said, okay.
0%
So
interest.
0% interest, payments over 6 years. And we paid a 1.4 multiple on EBITDA. So like the lesson is like, it's kind of like buying a house. You win when you buy. We've gone through some struggles since we bought that company. Like it's had some challenges, but because we bought it so well, we've just been able to kind of fight through it. And now we've stabilized it again. And we're going to be, looking at the next 5 years of probably net income in that 200, 250 range every single year. So,
And it kind of runs on its own now. Todd's gotten it to a point where we don't have to touch it. It just runs on its own now. And, we see between the two of us, $100,000 check come in every year.
Yeah, I'll probably average 6 hours a week that I spend on that business, and it'll be, 30% of our income. So, like that's a really good value.
Yeah. Can you dive into the operations of how you guys set that up over the past couple of years where it's essentially, hands off besides your 6 hours a week?
Yeah, we started out, there was a team in place. It was a really good crew. The plan was to get them, they were 1099 subcontractors. We interviewed everybody before we bought it, and they basically lied to us and said they were in it for the long haul. Our plan was to get them to W-2 within 90 days. And we just had to kind of get some things established, and we thought everybody was on board. So that was our mistake, was not doing that before we closed. Because what ended up happening about 3 months in is they left, and now we were sitting there. Luckily we had decided to go find another crew because we were getting so many leads. We wanted to double up our production and go try to increase sales to keep up with 2 crews. And so we had a crew to fall back on. The problem was then we basically had to overpay them and additional labor just to take care of the commitments we already had on the books. So year one, the first 3 months of the season were amazing. We were bringing in great money. And then we kind of fizzled out the rest of the year as we just had to pick up the pieces. So then going into last year, we had it was like, okay, this subcontractor model kind of works. We just need to stabilize it and make sure we've got a solid crew. And we may overpay a little bit this year, but we'll iron that out over time. And so last year we didn't quite make as much as we wanted to, but it did get stable and we had pretty solid operations, but I was involved in it pretty much every day. And so coming into this year, the decision was just like, I'm going to stop being the bottleneck, and we're going to reposition some money and authority to the subcontractor and my sales guy. And my sales guy is great. And so he's taken on the mantle of sort of like operations manager too. So we're paying him a little bit more for the sales than we did last year, but we're getting management out of it as well. And so between him and the crew, they've agreed to work together and manage themselves. So I haven't even gone to a job site in a month and a half. We've done 12 jobs. So I do some financial stuff and just some general strategy and things like that, and kind of manage the marketing with you guys. But this year it'll be about stabilizing that new model, and then if we can make that work, which I'm pretty confident we will, we'll go into next year with a growth mindset of how do we increase profit with that model.
That's that's some fantastic knowledge right there.
I think that's very hard for people that have contracting businesses to first get the people in place that will consistently show up and do the work, and then be able to set up operations where you can have everything be a clear process where you're not running around dropping off paint and checking on job sites and being on the phone with different homeowners. I know that's a huge pain for a lot of people. So that's impressive in the first couple of years to be able to set up a system to allow it to run what it seems like pretty smoothly.
Yeah, so far so good. We're actually ahead of pace for last year's sales. So, I mean, our goal is to increase sales by 100,000 this year. We're more than halfway. Actually, we're on pace to exceed that number. We'll see how it plays out the rest of the year. The general economy does impact sales a little bit, and there's probably been some slight changes. So we'll see if we can exceed our goal. But even if we hit our goal, we'll probably it'll be about the same amount of profit, but much, much simpler and much easier and much less time involved on my end and certainly on Ben's end.
I don't do anything.
Well, yeah, he does most of the real estate stuff. So like the goal is to simplify the return.
If you don't mind me asking, what was the turning point where you realized you yourself was the bottleneck and had to pull yourself out? What was that?
The damn Quick Trip card was $4,000 a month because Todd kept driving all over the place.
Honestly, it was just, I think I reached a little bit of a burnout point of just being honest with myself too. I was starting to resent the customer. I was really resenting our crew. And it was just like, okay, this is no way to live, for one thing. So what's the deal? And it just, one day, I think I must have gotten 10 phone calls between my sales guy, the crew leader, and customers. And I was like, I just spent my whole day on the phone answering questions that honestly, my sales guy knows the answer to most of it. The crew know what to do. They just didn't feel empowered to do it. And the customer, their issue was with either the sales guy or the crew. So why am I dealing with it? I was just like, I'm just done with this. And so it was like, we're either selling this thing or fixing it, and selling it's not really a great time for that. So we just had to fix it.
Yeah,
also,
that's
AI is not going to paint houses anytime soon. So let's keep one of the businesses that AI is not going to replace.
fingers crossed, right? Do you
I
guys
do like the business? It's very simple. I mean, it's straightforward. It's, painting is not rocket science, but there is some skill and knowledge and expertise that's required to really do a good job. And you do come across some funky things with houses and wood rot and, just stuff that the average homeowner is not going to know what to do. So I think there's long-term value in service-based businesses. I'd say long-term. I mean, I think there's at least a 10-year runway on painting before you start seeing drones paint houses. Well, maybe 20 years. So, but it's coming, but we've got a longer runway. We've got a longer runway with something like painting than you would with accounting.
Todd will be retired by then.
I'll be, yeah.
That's a good point. It's
so.
Definitely something like you see a bunch of companies come out of these huge layouts, white collar jobs, just being completely eliminated every week as AI continues to advance. And it seems like you guys got a pretty killer deal on the business itself. Do you see your guys' future doing similar processes with other contracting service-based businesses?
I sent him one yesterday. He didn't respond.
Yeah. When the timing's right, I think if we can get through this year kind of unscathed on the painting side, and it is very stable, and everybody feels like it was a solid. We want everybody involved to win, so we need our crew to feel like they got paid well. We need our sales guy to feel like he got paid well. We need to get paid well. If that happens, then we can go into next year with just more of a let's tweak this here. Let's ramp this up here. We'll try to grow. Then we might look at, okay, we have capacity to bring on, kind of repeat that model and learn from our previous mistakes and try to avoid those issues. But I think once you kind of get the things stabilized and get the systems in place, I mean, I'm okay working 40 plus hours a week. If it means I'm spending 10 hours on 4 companies, okay, that's fine. And I think we've got that capacity to do it as long as you've got the systems and the people in place to run it. You're going to have issues, but hopefully, if you've got them stabilized in different time frames, then you're not going to have big issues with all 4 all at once. That could be a rough patch.
We got to keep Todd busy, or else he's going to spend all his time on the golf course. Can't have that.
Well, we can have that.
You're going to get better than me, and then it's not going to be fun for me to play with you.
Oh my, was that,
I
I
beat
gotta
him once and he can't handle it.
Oh man, that's hilarious. I gotta ask, was it strategic buying the painting business, considering that you have a real estate business as well? Like, do they overlap ever? Like, do you use your painting business to help refinish and retouch up some of the real estate, things like that?
Yeah, a little bit. We we've our rehab. Um, we basically backed out of rehab a little bit. We're doing more wholesaling or novations, like quick turn of contracts instead of closing on a house and rehabbing it. So at the same time that we were ramping up sales on the painting side, we were dialing down the rehab. So that didn't really cross over as much as maybe we thought when we were actually starting to buy the painting company. But we are going to use the painting company for just about anything that we do. We'll probably flip, I don't know, what, 10, 12 this year, maybe, just because they're easy deals and we can do it. And paint's involved in nearly every one. So yeah, we probably will get some crossover there. That being said, Unique Painting is more of a, I would say, like a mid high end paint company. It's geared towards customer service and quality, not price. Where flipping is pretty much price driven. Um, so, we have to kind of manage that a little bit, but it probably makes sense for us to run that across the two verticals.
And we were going to talk to you guys about adding gutters and decks on the Unique Painting.
That could be done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's not kidding.
I'm not kidding.
Gutters and decks. Okay. Well, two businesses down, one to go. ATI Security. How did you guys get into ATI, and what does that look like today? How's that transitioned over time?
That's you, Ben.
That's me. Oh,
You
God.
you get to tell this story.
That's fair. Ben's an idiot. That's the beginning of the story. But we're just going to blame Delana. Can we just blame Delana? So my wife knew this dude that was part of her massive friend group, and he was a former Fed. And he got tired of being a Fed, and we're, as any good story about starting a business goes, you're drinking, obviously. So we were in Montana skiing, and we're drinking on the patio, and he's like, I want to start my own business. We're like, oh, okay, cool. So I'm sitting there with him, smoking cigars, drinking, and I thought he was just bullshitting. We get back from Montana. He's like, hey, can I come work from your office? Because I actually want to start this. Okay. So we helped him get it started, whatever. But we needed revenue because the stuff that he was trying to sell was this crazy high enterprise, long sales cycle stuff. So he actually came across Scott, who owned ATI Security for 12 years. And we said, hey, Scott, you seem like you have a solid business. Any chance you want to partner? It's like, well, I really don't like working by myself. I'd love to, have other guys that want to work with me. So we folded his company into ours, and then went through a ton of struggle from trying to make it to every single event in security in the entire country, which cost us thousands of dollars, to these big high ticket customers that thought we were going to make millions of dollars off of that ended up fizzling out, to building partnerships where, the partnerships with these other companies, these guys were multi-million dollar companies, and they just tried to dictate everything that we did. It was just bad partnership after bad partnership with these vendors. So in December, we went to the person that my wife had introduced me to and said, listen, you go and take the enterprise stuff. We're just going to run ATI, which is installation, low voltage, cameras, access control, monitoring systems, the stuff that actually fucking pays versus the enterprise stuff that takes years if you get it at all. And the three of us, me, Scott, and Todd, took back ATI, and he went and kept the brand that we had created. So now, after all of that, we're just doing installations, cameras, access control, monitoring, the stuff that every freaking business needs right now, as the world is changing and things are getting scarier and scarier, and people want to make sure that their shit's locked down. and not pay, an actual person who is a security guard who can walk a parking lot or an entire shopping center. And the only thing that they can do is if they see crime is call the police and say, hey, there's somebody doing crime. I think that's how you say it, right? Doing crime. So we've kind of built it to where we're now trying to go after that market and replace the man security with intelligence on cameras and, having all of these different live monitoring systems where we can see a crime in progress, go directly to the police 24/7. The police will come because we have it on camera, and it's not coming from a security guard going, hey, I was sitting here eating my sandwich on TikTok and I saw somebody breaking into something. Can you be here soon? They're not going to respond quickly because you don't have video proof. If you have video proof, they're going to show up right away. So that's where we're going now with everything on the security side. So yeah, that is ATI. And I don't hardly do anything on that business. Todd and Scott basically run that. I'll do a little creative things if they need one pagers or whatever. But outside of that, Scott's the technical guy. Todd knows how to money, right? And then, I'm just here if they need me to plug something into Claude to spit out a cool design thing.
Love that. So I guess now that you're getting away from the enterprise model that you split with the partner with, what's the ICP now? Who are you going after? Who are you targeting? What does that look like?
I'm a very simple boy from Independence, Missouri. What is ICP?
It's insane clown posse.
Exactly. Now, ideal customer profile. Who are you trying to attract business from?
Commercial clients, bars, restaurants, construction sites, hospitals, schools, those enterprise clients that will go and install 5 to 500 cameras, access control points. We're not going after the homeowner that says, hey, I want a security system on my house. Like Todd said with the painting business, working with homeowners is a pain in the ass. We don't want to do it. We'll go to the commercial clients who can, who have the ability to pay more money, and they're a hell of a lot less of a pain in the ass to work with. They just say, here's what we want, go and do it. We go and do it, and we're good.
That's awesome. And I'm assuming this model of, you setting up the security cameras, you have 24/7 monitoring is less expensive than hiring a 24-hour, 24/7 security guard, right? As far as recurring goes.
Most of these guys don't even hire them 24/7. They're like, maybe 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. It's usually 12-hour shifts. And then after that, there's either an 8 or a 12-hour gap of no coverage. Plus, their liability insurance is crazy high with a manned security guard. There was an example that happened, was it last year, Todd, where one of the security guards got at a bank, got his ass beat by guys that were trying to break in, and it turned into this giant claim that the bank had to pay out because their security guard got injured on the property. If you shoot a camera, we just replace the camera. There's no claim that has to come with replacing a $400 camera.
Yeah, I love that.
We have about 45 clients that pay just a small recurring monthly fee, anywhere from like 75 to 150. That's not paying a ton, but part of it's like that recurring revenue on the monitoring is just part of the thing. If we can get an install job, even if it's a small one, and then they sign up for monitoring long term, then over time, we're kind of the easy button for them on something as simple as monitoring. But then when they do need a bigger project, we're the first ones they call. That's kind of the idea on the small stuff. The difference is like those clients you're dealing with generally like a person who has his own business or her own business, and they're the decision maker and it's their money. So they're not an ideal client. We like having a mix of those, but we also like some of the bigger operations where it's a manager who's been given a mandate to get something secured, and it's not their money. So then those are the best clients, but they're a little bit harder to find. So you need that mix of these easy little uh, mom and pops where they make the decision, but it's a small amount of money, and then that's kind of a constant cash flow. And then you got to go out and hunt down some of these other clients where you're dealing with someone else's money, and they can pay more. They have a little bit higher expectation of product and quality, so we can meet that demand and get paid well for it.
Yeah, that's awesome. It sounds like the entry point for a lot of these businesses is installing these security cameras. Do you guys want to dive into, what some of these maybe bigger projects look like, what that entails for these customers that you build trust with in the get-go and end up stacking on?
Yeah, we're having real good success as a subcontractor. So a lot of the bigger projects are handled, they kind of are predetermined between the architect, the customer, the company customer, and then the general contractor. Like, it's more of a design build world now, and so that's already been done. Like, the GC already has the job, so there's not much of an opportunity for us to go get bid it. So you have to build relationships with the GCs, and if you can get in good with the GC, they just give you the work. They'll budget it appropriately and then tell you, hey, we've got 130 grand on this, for this job. Can you make it work? And we look at it and go, yeah, that's a 40% margin. That's fine. We'll make it. We can do it. Thanks for the work. And we didn't have to spend any marketing dollars. And so we've established a really good relationship with one general contractor now, and they're basically loading us up with all of the work they're doing in schools, which is great. The challenge is it's like between May and August, and it's like a ton of work, short period of time, good for profitability during that time, but it's operations heavy. So then our sales cycle kind of slows down, and then we're left in August, September, like trying to fill the void. So we have to have this mix of clients, because that's a great relationship that we don't have to spend any marketing money on, and we're getting $400,000 or $500,000 worth of work that we got to cram into 10, 12 weeks. But that doesn't build. You can't. It's hard to build a business on just that. Trying to find a way to have all these different sources and have them kind of even out over a year. That's really the challenge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fantastic. So it sounds like that's been primarily the biggest wins is, butting up with these general contractors in the beginning. Since you're relatively, ATI is a newer venture, correct? Like, since you split in December. So what's the long-term plan here? Are you looking to hold on to the business for the foreseeable future? Do you see an exit in the next few years? What does that look like?
I don't know about an exit. I will like to put it in perspective. Unique Painting has been in business for now 18 years, and the best year ever sold $750,000 at about 22% margin, 25% margin, something like that. ATI basically was on the bench for a couple of years because it was part of that other brand, and now just in our first year, we're probably going to do 750 this year at like 45% margin. So the upside and we haven't even started trying. We have like almost no marketing budget. We have no sales team.
I don't know how it's possible. We're on the same Wi-Fi. The margins on ATI are much higher than the painting company, is where he was going with that.
Okay.
Significantly higher.
There we go. Love it.
Yeah. So that's why it would be tough to get rid of that business.
Mm-hmm.
Even though there's 3 partners on that one, with the margins being 30-40%, it's so hard to want to give that up.
Yeah.
And Ben, you said you don't spend too much time on ATI or Unique. You said a couple months ago, I think you said 99% of your time is spent on the real estate game.
It is. Yeah. Most of what I'm doing is just real estate heavy. And just trying to find ways to position ourselves in every market that we're in to be competitive on, one, helping homeowners. There's a lot of people in real estate business that are just horrible ethics people, and they just take advantage of homeowners all day long. We don't want to do that. And then, piggybacking off of that is we built the coaching community so we can build an entire army of people that are doing this business the right way, so that we can get some of these, low life people that are just in this for the profit and not caring about homeowners and what they're going through and the situation, but to get those guys out of the business and get more of our people that we've trained to do this the right way back into the business.
He's back. Hey, Todd.
Sorry, I missed that. My internet got really unstable.
You are all good. Yeah, Ben, that was awesome. So it sounds like you guys have got your time structured across all these businesses pretty damn well, if you ask me. You have everything, every role siloed out. How long did that take to kind of, come to that conclusion? Like, I own this part of the business, you own that.
I think it more or less came down to, what do you enjoy doing?
Mm-hmm.
Like, we had a conversation of what do you actually like to do? Todd likes to go have, go meet people, have higher level conversations with, the decision makers of businesses. I really enjoy the real estate side. And the painting company for both of us was kind of like, this sucks. So I pushed that suck onto Todd and said, here, you figure this out. You were the painter. You know what the hell you're doing. But now we've kind of gotten into a position where, like last night, Todd got to go to a happy hour and have conversations with higher level people. I ran a coaching call while he was at the happy hour with the students in our community. I enjoy doing the coaching calls, and the real estate side, he enjoys going to the events and talking to people. It was not always like that, though. It was for, the last 6 years. It was all hands on deck, do whatever's necessary, figure it out. If you need help, ask, but don't ask, just figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. Do you guys have any words of wisdom for people getting into business, people in business that are navigating partnerships, and trying to figure out business and be successful in it?
Yeah, I'll go first. Do not bring on a partner if you do not have to. If you can give them equity, or if you can give them profit share, do not give up equity. Equity is like a marriage. It is very, very difficult to get out of an equity partnership. We've seen it now twice. It's a freaking pain in the butt. So if you can share profit, do that, but do not bring on somebody that you're giving equity away to, especially if they have a considerable amount of that equity. Like, our first partnership was 33, 33, 33. To get out a third partner cost us a lot of money. So, there's a lot that you can do and incentivize people in different ways, especially if you're buying a business. If there's a manager in place, incentivize them with profit share. Hey, if we hit these numbers, you make more money. I'm not going to give you equity, though. And it's more or less piggybacking off of that. You really have to have documentation in place that outlines, like Todd and I's roles. What are your expectations of me? What are my expectations of you? And you have a full outline of, if something were to go wrong, what happens? Did you meet your expectations? Did I meet my expectations? What's the solution for not meeting these expectations? Like, having all of that outlined in an operating agreement is huge, because we did not do that when we brought on our first partner. Like, the two of us, when we brought on that third partner, we did not have that outlined very well. And it cost us a lot of money. So if you can avoid giving up equity, do that. And then make sure you are documented to the T, because it just keeps everybody in check. Like, what's expected. Other people know what's expected of you. And it's very clearly outlined what happens if somebody missteps.
I think if I was going to give somebody advice, well, we talked a little bit about it earlier, start something while you have something. I hear a lot of, maybe not so much anymore. For a while, there are a lot of gurus who are saying, like, burn the boats or, blow up the bridge or whatever. Yeah, maybe. I think there's some people who that would really work well for, but you need to know yourself and know if that's the right idea. I mean, having confidence is good, but if it's misplaced, I mean, you might think that you're really good talking to people, and the reality is people are just too nice to tell you that you're terrible at it. And so, like, if you burn the boat, you quit your job and think you're great at networking and you really suck at it, you've really just kind of cut your nose off to spite your face. I think it's like you have to know yourself really well, and Ben and I have a good partnership. A lot of stuff is just kind of we just understand it. We don't even have to talk about everything all the time, but that's rare, I think, where he just kind of knows what I need to do. I know what he needs to do. And then every once in a while it converges. We have to talk through like something, and it's not that hard. And, I think a lot of times people just sort of jump in too fast a little bit. I do think action is good. I think you do need to take action. But I think it needs to be a little bit measured for most people. It's just a rare breed who can go out and just make it happen. Some people can do that, but you got to know yourself really well. And then to like kind of add on to the partnership kind of thing, I think like my 30-year anniversary with my wife is in December, and she's my person and I'm her person, right? But there are days when she probably doesn't even want to look at me. Like, that's just part of a partnership. It's just going to happen. And I'm sure there've been times when either Ben or I are like, I kind of want to punch him in the throat. And then, but you just like, you don't allow in your mind for that opportunity to let that fester and become a thing. Okay, this was a bad day, turn the page, and it's fine. Like you kind of got to get through it. And he's right about like our decision making when it came to these other partners. Like there was a point with that third partner where it was like, we cannot continue with this. And so that was really painful and really expensive and drawn out a lot of energy. And it was completely avoidable because we could have set that up early with where he was getting a third of the profit, but was not an owner. And then we could have just ended it and it would have been free. And so there's just, I think, a lot to be learned from the standpoint of, if you start something, keep it as long as you can. And equity has to be earned. It's not given. If you have a really strong partnership with somebody over years and years and years, then that might be the time to start thinking about, hey, let's let them in on this because they've earned it. And that's if you've grown and become more profitable. So I think that's the kind of thing that you have to earn. It shouldn't be an incentive to keep somebody.
I love that.
Love it. That's great. I appreciate the
gray
words
hairs
of
in his
wisdom.
beard make him wise.
Hmm.
He also knows that punching me in the throat would be a horrible idea.
Hey, I'm not saying I would walk out clean. I'm just saying it'd be fun to punch you in the throat. That's all.
Oh my goodness. Well, this has been a fantastic fourth episode of the After Hours the Pledgy podcast. So we thank you both very much for taking the time out of your day to meet us on here. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for letting us talk.
On the podcast, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All
Awesome.
right.
Well, appreciate it, and talk to you guys later.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Have a good day, gentlemen.